Welcome to Evoldog's Trinity. I'm Evoldog. Let's just get to it.
Resident Evil 2.
Resident Evil is my favorite video game franchise of all time. Now, not every game in the series has been stellar, but it's a series that I keep finding myself revisiting. The original Resident Evil game was the game that compelled me to buy a Sony PlayStation. And before buying the game, I read multiple reviews on magazines like GamePro and EGM, and they all stated that the game was really scary. And at that moment, this was unheard of, right? Game has never brought terror or dread to the masses. So I called bullshit on all of that. And to me, it just sounded like hyperbole, right? And so when I finally got the game, I remember it was like a Thursday afternoon. I went home, went to my room, turned off all the lights, closed the curtains, and just cranked up that audio. Because ain't no stinking polygons. It's gonna scare me, right? And so several hours later, I found myself turning the lights back on, reducing audio on my TV, and I just sat there, marveled at how psychologically and emotionally the game made me feel. Like, to me, that was like an evolutionary leap in gaming. Because before then, I was just playing a game to beat a level, get a high score, collect a bunch of coins, finish up a bunch of storylines, and yet here I was, paralyzed with genuine fear, right? Afraid to have my character turn a corner, mutilate dogs crashing through windows. I'm here trying to conserve ammunition. It was the first time that a game made me feel vulnerable. And that was just mind-blowing. 2 years later, Capcom drops Resident Evil 2. And that game takes survival horror to a whole new level. It introduces the zap system, A/B scenarios, characters' animation limp as they take damage. The game was truly groundbreaking. And then Resident Evil 3, Code Veronica, and then they eventually remade Resident Evil on the GameCube. Now, any staunch Resident Evil fan will tell you that the Resident Evil 1 remake on the GameCube is close to a perfect game. All right, it took the original and dramatically improved on every conceivable level, and even added more story lore to the game itself. The revision was so astounding that we were waiting and begging for a remake of 2. And hopelessly, we waited for years until 2015.
ようやくこのリメイクプロジェクト開発決定いたしました。ありがとうございます。
So when I finally saw the official announcement, I was ecstatic as hell. We were finally getting the remake we've always wanted, and on the RE engine as well, right? But there was one little nagging issue, and that the game was going to be over the shoulders like Resident Evil 4. This frustrated me because I consider myself to be an old school hardcore Resident Evil fan, right? And this meant that 2 needed the same level of treatment that 1 did, right? It needed to be pre-rendered backgrounds with static camera angles and modified tank controls. Because the remake of 1 was close to a perfect game, I wanted to mirror that treatment. So I was adamant that it had to be like the original remake. Now, I don't have an issue with over-the-shoulder gaming. Resident Evil 4 was extremely fun. My issue was that 4 didn't feel like a Resident Evil game. It was way too linear, the level designs was uninspiring, you just moved from level to level. Sure, there was a slight hub that connected several levels together, but it never felt organic. I don't mind backtracking if the backtracking is fun. To me, what makes Resident Evil exceptional is the mixture of great action and clever level designs. Resident Evil 2 Remake manages to successfully combine the new school style of action that started with Resident Evil 4, then 5 and 6, with the old school puzzle-based solving, inventory management, and bone-chilling horror that elevated the originals. To me, this is the perfect Resident Evil incarnation. It mixes both styles so well that I think this should be the defining template that Capcom moves forward with the series. This game was such a blast. It was the only game in 2019 that I kept returning to over and over. I've platinumed this game twice on the PS4 on 2 different accounts, and I just recently bought this on Steam. I'm going to be playing this remake like the original for years to come. Now, I'm not a speedrunner, but I do speedrun all of Resident Evil games, and it's not because I want to be the fastest player in the world, it's just more of a personal challenge. I just find it really gratifying. As bold as Resident Evil 7 did by taking the game to a different genre and managing to, keep the horror elements and puzzle base, I still prefer to see my characters in action. I want to see the character designs. Capcom has a talent for just developing awesome looking characters, and it'd be criminal not to see them in action. VR is perfect for a first person game, and playing Resident Evil 7 in VR, you're not just playing the game, you are in the game. For that reason, sure, if you're going to do a VR game, fine, let's go first person. But if you're not, please, let's keep that shit third person. The cinematics in Resident Evil 2 Remake are just top-level filmmaking. They feel so grounded and natural. Now, I love the cheese of the original, but cheese has its time and place. They are going for a more realistic approach in this adaptation. The opening sequence with the truck driver is just really awesome. Sure, the original had the iconic line,
"Guy's a maniac. Why'd he bite me?"
and I kind of wish they could have found a way to make that line work, but maybe it was just way too cheesy. But the shot composition was just really cool, seeing the truck slam into the zombie and then having the hair flail behind the grill. Just some really cool shit. Marvin, they just really made him feel more human and not an automaton this time. His distinct interaction between Leon and Claire is just quite remarkable. I just like how stern he is with Leon, but then very gentle with Claire. The nuance in his mannerism really makes him feel like a developed character this time.
And be careful. If you see one of those things, no matter who they were, you can't hesitate. Take them out if you can. Or you run.
I applaud what they did with Kendo in this version. He's not just some dumb gun store owner who gets ambushed by zombies in his shop, but they managed to give him this very short and tragic arc where he's forced to deal with his infected daughter. The scene is just really brief but very poignant. Romero would have been proud.
How did this happen? Huh?
They made the chief really despicable, Sherry really adorable, and Ada just damn right sexy. The 3D models, voice acting, and animation are just superb and phenomenal. Mr. X is truly frightening. He wasn't as scary in the original, he was more of a walking obstacle. But in this remake, there is something about his presence that just screams primal terror. Maybe it's in his iconic score, the foreboding footsteps, or something in his cold demeanor. Now, I've played this game throughout 2019, and I've spent dozens to over 100 hours on multiple systems. And every time Mr. X shows up, he's always inciting this primal fear that sends shivers down my spine, especially when I'm doing speedruns. His execution in this remake is just flawless. What is Resident Evil without its assortment of badass weaponry? From the 3-round bursts of the Matilda, the magnificent Lightning Hawk, the sweet, sweet burning fluidity of the flamethrower. Every time you light something up with the flamethrower, it is just so satisfying. And of course, that always reliable, trusty shotty. Headshots never feel so empowering. It is total bliss. When you are vulnerable and encounter dangerous creatures like lickers and hunters, in this case the Ivies, and a standard weapon ceases to be effective, there is no greater feeling as when you find that extra weapon upgrade or a higher caliber weapon. When you go from feeling defenseless to a bit more secure, that is the true rewarding aspects of a great Resident Evil game. Survival fucking horror at its finest. I hate horror games where you're constantly running around defenseless, building up all this burdening tension with no way to relieve it. I find those games very tiresome. Sure, there's a little bit of that when Mr. X is on your ass, but that's only to a point. Man, when you find that weapon upgrade, that extra inventory slot, woo! That is Resident Evil, my friends. The zombies in this game are spectacularly horrifying. They are very formidable. They are the best zombies I have ever encountered in any video games, period. From their piercing death screech and relentless pursuit, they always keep you in check. Now, you can probably manage one zombie, but when there are more than one, you really need to be on high alert, because these zombies will not stop. They will literally make a beeline towards you. They will fall off banisters, railings. They will crawl over desktops. They will tag team your ass. They will even trip over their own. You can even dismember all their limbs, and they will hop on their limbless torso to get a bite out at you. These zombies, they cannot be bargained with. They cannot be reasoned with. They feel no pity, remorse, or fear. And they will not stop, ever, until you are dead. These zombies are redefining zombies in any video game. The puzzles in this remake feel very natural and logical. They aren't as ambiguous or abstract as the originals. Sure, there are a few cheesy video gamey puzzles like having to find 3 emblems that will open up a secret passageway. But there are a lot of smaller puzzles sprinkled across the levels that feel very organic, you know, like the saves, portable saves, finding combinations to lockers, the signal modulators. They all feel very practical and realistic, and, you know, there's a slight charm to them. As amazing as the Resident Evil 2 remake is, it is not immune to flaws. Now, the AB scenario I thought was done really half-assed. The originals did it so much better, and if Capcom, if you're going to attempt the AB scenarios, at least put some more effort into it, because it just felt really awkward and disjointed. I mean, you never really knew where Claire or Leon was in the timeline at any given time, but then you throw in Annette and she dies in both scenarios. It's just really weird, you know. But to Capcom's credit, they did say that they weren't going to implement the AB scenarios in the remake, and that's why they call it the second scenario. But come on, we all know what the second scenario really is. You know, I much have preferred them doing Leon Claire or Claire Leon, and just keep those 2 stories just tightly woven instead of this half-ass B scenario. My other gripe is how bullet spongy the zombies are. I mean, sometimes they take 7 bullets, sometimes they take 15, and if you're lucky enough, maybe you can get that critical headshot. It just all feels so random, you know, and when you're playing on hardcore and you're trying to preserve your ammo and you're managing your inventory, it all becomes just so annoying. But other than that, man, the game is just spectacular. It's close to a perfect game, just like the original, and it's my favorite game. Well, it's my game of the year for 2019. And yeah, man, I mean, it's the video game. It's the game that got me off my ass. I don't do videos much. I think my last video was 2 years ago, and this game got me off my lazy ass to contribute more to this channel. And so I hope you enjoy this video, and thanks for watching.